first question. Who had the most surprising regular season?
Yeah, there's a couple really good options here. You see them there on the screen. This is what production has picked out, and I'd agree with most of these: Chicago, Philly, San Diego, Vancouver. I was pretty negative on Vancouver at the start of the season, so I should give them some love. But I got to go San Diego. I mean, let's point out they're an expansion team. Yes, a couple years ago we did see St. Louis also win the West, but they win the West. They finished 3 points off the Shield. Brought in Chucky Lozano. Didn't have the biggest numbers, but 9 goals, 7 assists. Certainly like what you want from a DP. Also activating the Mexican market there. Huge success with Anders Dreyer, the Danish player. 19 goals, 18 assists. I'll put my hand up here. I had never heard of Dreyer before San Diego signed him. Never in my life.
Nobody in San Diego.
So that's some great scouting right there. You've gone, you found a great guy. And the other reason why I think I'm so surprised by it is the manager. I mean, Mikey Varas. This guy had never in his life been a coach of a club team. I mean, he'd been the top guy at under 20. He'd managed the national team as an interim. But for Mikey Varas to step in, never been a club coach, with an expansion team and get them to finish first in the West, I don't know how you go anywhere else. I got a lot of love for Vancouver. I was surprised by them. I do have to say, I do have to hold my hand up here on one team, Philly. I killed the Union last year on this show when they fired Jim Curtin. I thought it was a huge, huge mistake. I thought they'd be at the bottom of the Eastern Conference this year. Obviously, they won the Shield. So credit to Ernst Tanner there. And Bradley Carnell as well. Maybe I should have been criticizing St. Louis instead for firing him at the end of 2024. But Philly, a big surprise for me, but nothing more than an expansion team winning their conference.
Well, I would argue that I think it's much easier right now to lay out an expansion team and have a more successful season than to deal with old contracts and can be a new coach coming in, which is why I give Vancouver all the flowers of the world. If Savvy's not going to get Jasper Sorensen, what he was able to do with this team, a team that nobody wanted and is probably still being sold as we speak. The narrative coming into the season, he signs hours before the preseason starts, was we want to sell this team. It's an underserving market. We can't have this team be successful, and he comes in and he makes them successful. Let's not forget, they played a continental final. And this year made prime players of players like Sebastian Berhalter. You also have the likes of Thomas Mueller who comes in. I can think of no franchise in Major League Soccer who has more upside right now than Vancouver. So flowers to Vancouver and what they've done over there.
Yeah, they had quite the campaign at the international level as well. So a tip of the cap there to Vancouver as well. Let's take it to our next question, Sebi. All right. All right. Who needs the biggest offseason overhaul?
See the candidates there: Atlanta, DC, LA, Sporting Kansas City. My beloved DC United, I'll save a note for them towards the end. I got to go Atlanta. I got to go Atlanta United here. You know, they finished 14th in the Eastern Conference, despite the fact they spent third most out of any team in MLS as far as like salary budget. So we know they're capable of spending. They just got to do it right. They've already fired the manager, Ronnie Dyla. And what I like about Atlanta is that they're capable of having the big offseason. Arthur Blank has spent a lot before. He's spent big on coaches in the past. He's gone out and gotten relatively big-name coaches. So I think there's a chance here for Atlanta to upgrade in multiple ways, not just in the technical area. You get a better coach, you'll be in better shape, but also to kind of continue to build around this roster. Like, they spent a lot of money. I think it was a record on Emmanuel Latela. Yep. He lit up the league in the first, 5-10 games of the season. And then it was nothing. So I don't know if you sell that player and maybe try to recoup some money, turn that to something else. Of course, they brought back Miguel Almiron. They have at least like what I would say is like a kind of a basic model and some real good pieces to be a great team, not an average team, not a bad team, a great team. They've just got to make that turnaround. And the other thing I'd say about Atlanta United is MLS needs them. There's very few markets like Atlanta that really get into the sport. For some of my other work, I go to Atlanta almost every weekend. Whether they're playing home, whether they're playing away, whether they're good, whether they're bad, you walk around Atlanta's downtown, you see people in Atlanta United shirts. Even now, when they've been bad for a few years, you don't see that in other MLS markets. You don't see what they're capable of doing. So it's a great fan base. It's a great market. It's the potential to be a great team. We've seen it before. Yeah. And I think they need to have the biggest offseason. Because in a market like that, you start to lose year after year after year. And soon they're going to forget 2017. They're going to forget 2018. They're going to forget the greatness of those teams. And you're not going to be putting 40,000 in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You're going to be putting 20,000. That's going to look bad.
Yeah, I think a reason why Atlanta is an easy choice is you see the other nominees and you don't expect what you expect out of them as you do Atlanta. Atlanta is a big team in this league, and you need them to be successful. They were, and still are, putting some of the highest attendances
You don't
worldwide.
expect that from LA Galaxy?
Well, I think that's an off year because of what happened in their
okay.
salary cap restrictions. So I will exclude them. Thank you for that. Yes, I will exclude them because
Just making sure.
what happened, I don't think is what normally would happen, and salary restraints that come with being an MLS Cup champion. It's stupid MLS rules. Anyways, I can't believe we're not talking about DC United here.
Oh,
DC United on the Supporters Shield standings are the worst team in the league.
Hey, we brought home a wooden spoon.
They won 5 games. They could only muster 2 games at home that they've won. And this is a team that scored 30 goals. How many goals did Messi score? How many goals? Messi scored 29. They scored 1 more goal than Messi.
With Benteke, by the way.
With Benteke, by the way, who was great last season. They got rid of, I don't know how many players, citing the players as the problem. And here we are again talking about DC being I don't even want to say forgotten franchise, a franchise we want to forget about.
Can I tell you why I didn't pick DC United? One, the point you just made, they're totally irrelevant. So I don't think anybody cares whether they're good or not. I think Atlanta's much more important to the league. The other thing I would say about DC United, and this is super important, they are not capacitated to have a big offseason. They don't have a front office, and they definitely don't have competent ownership. You look at Atlanta, you see competent ownership. You see a guy who owns an NFL team. You see a guy who's good at business. That's not DC United. Jason Levian's a joke as an owner. He's incompetent. And until Jason Levian sells the team and is no longer involved, DC United is not worth discussing on a national level program like this.
Zero expectations until we see an important change. Then. All right, let's take it to some other expectations coming this season, because as we well discussed MLS Cup playoffs, we're seeing the bracket here on the screen. San Diego still waiting their rival here in the first round between Portland and RSL. Of course, Minnesota and Seattle. LAFC against Austin FC on that side in round 1. Vancouver FC Dallas on the other side. Philadelphia still waiting. Chicago or Orlando on that's Orlando too. Charlotte against New York City FC. Inter Miami, as we said, against Nashville and FC Cincinnati versus
Cincy Columbus. That's tasty. First rounder.
Yes, it is a tasty dish to kick off our postseason for MLS. Sevi, who is the favorite to win MLS Cup? Inter Miami, San Diego, Vancouver Whitecaps, Philly Union, or LAFC?
Yeah, I mean, people can see the odds there on the screen. They probably think I'm chasing the value here, but I'm not. I think it's LAFC. I'm third right now in the West, and this basically for me is down to 2 dudes, Denny Bawanga and Heung-min Son. They have been incredible together, so good. I don't know, it's only been like 10 games for Son, but 43 goal involvements combined between those two. They're also coming in pretty hot. Of their last 8 games, they've only lost once, and they were putting up some big, crooked numbers in some of those games. 4 goals, 3 goals, just racking up goals left, right, and center. I also think maybe a little bit of an emotional play here. Steve Cherundolo getting ready to ride off into the sunset, maybe playing for their manager. Also a guy who, knows how to win MLS Cup. He
Last
did it
Dance vibes.
3 years ago, exactly. I really think LAFC for me is not just the best value, but they're the team to pick here. I throw a word to Seattle. I think Seattle's a very, very good team that's always, worthy of consideration this late. It'll probably come down to Seattle, LAFC for me in the West. Ooh. And then, of course, you got to mention Inter Miami, out of the East. I just think this, they lack the coaching, and they are so vulnerable defensively. Again, Nashville, who's not some great team, could have had 3 or 4 goals in the opening half hour of that game. And that's pretty much every Inter Miami game you watch. And I don't think you can win it all with so little defense, no matter what Messi does. At some point, you're going to have a 1-0 or 2-0 game. And I just think they're going to have to rely on their back line more than they're ready to.
Again, the Vancouver disrespect remains. LAFC would have to go through Vancouver to make it to MLS Cup. Listen, you could say what you want about how hot Son is and how hot Bawanga are. This is still an LAFC team that for large stretches of the season underwhelmed. And it's still an LAFC team that in past editions...
Have they underwhelmed since Son's been there? Because that's the team now. I hear you. The first half, I was like, I'll be honest here. At the beginning of the season,
they didn't look good against Colorado. They didn't look good against Colorado.
Placed a futures bet on LAFC. 3 months into the season, El Primo felt really bad about that bet, but the new LAFC is what I'm going on.
Trust me, if it's the new FC, this because LAFC in general, with Steve Cherundolo has just always been so Jekyll and Hyde. And if it's a scenario where you're placing all your chips on one player, because that's what you're going off of, how Sung has changed LAFC.
Yes, in the combo with Boanga.
I'm going to place all my chips on Messi. I'm going to place all my chips on historic Messi, on Messi who's changed the game once, twice, 3 times over. Every single time we see him, he's just a difference maker in a playoff setting where they have the benefit of 3 games against Nashville and then going on.
They had 3 games against Atlanta last year.
Yeah, well, yeah. And that's the thing. I don't think that's going to happen again. And they're going to come off and face a Cincinnati team or a Columbus team who are going to come off beating the hell out of each other. I think they'll be physically fresher. I'm going to take Miami here. I think the value is good at plus 500, and I just think it makes sense. The best footballer in the league plays for Inter Miami. I've got no problem with that.
It's just a little bit of a role reversal. You've always been the guy to kind of go against Inter Miami, go against Messi.
And what did you always say?
And don't do it. You don't bet against Messi.
Out of my mouth, Sevi. That was exactly.
I know.
You've always been kind of an Inter Miami,
and you don't bet against them.
LAFC lover, but
he's learned his lesson.
But it's the moment, right, that LAFC has, and we know that when it comes to postseason, it's really of the moment right now. It seems to be more with LAFC collectively
here's the thing,
versus Inter Miami.
We've not seen them have the adversity yet. You know, it's been smooth sailing for LAFC.
So, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Is that how you live your life?
Once you get punched in the mouth, that's when you find out who you are. They've not gotten punched in the mouth with Sun. I want to see who they are. I know who Miami is. I like what I see out of them going forward. And I don't think they're as bad defensively as Sev makes it out. I think this team...
Maybe honestly, I'm being prisoner of the moment just off that Nashville game. I'm not exaggerating.
They could have scored 8 on Nashville.
Not in the first half. It should have been 4-0 when Messi scores.
It should always be something with Inter Miami.
20 yards over the bar from 5 feet away.
It should always be something with Inter Miami, yet it's not. You should never have a 30-year-old.
Somebody's going to take advantage of those mistakes. At some point in the playoffs, you're not going to run up against Nashville. You're going to run up against some real quality, and somebody's going to take advantage of the mistakes they make.
Say the same thing about LAFC.
Yeah, but LAFC has 2 studs.
And those 2 studs don't measure Lionel Messi.
I'd take 2 over 1 any day.
I can't wait until MLS Cup is wrapped and we can come back. And we can come back to this segment too.
Plus 500, book it.